This is A Smaller Life, a podcast about making more conscious and more ethical choices within our crafts. Hosted by me, Saskia de Feiter. I'm a small business owner who wants to grow by going smaller. Together with local makers, I make tools, yarns, and accessories for knitters that want to buy less, buy better, make more, and make it last, keeping away the overwhelm and all the ridiculousness of over-consuming within our crafts. In the podcast, I endeavor to answer the question we ask ourselves before we start a project. What do we buy? Where do we buy? Who do we buy from? Or don't we buy at all, but use what we already have? Because when you think about what you do, you take more time and end up with less of everything. As a result, you'll get a smaller life. Today I'm talking to Gina Rockenwagner. She's a fashion designer that works consciously on providing a wide range of bodies with colorful and ethical fashion. She's such an inspiration, and I'm really happy to talk to her about her journey and the choices she's making in her business. Here's Gina. Hi, Gina.
Hi, Saskia. It's so nice to talk to you.
So good to have you. It's so fun to talk to you. I can't believe that you're not sitting next to me. It really sounds like you are.
I wish I was.
So tell me, where are you? Where are you talking?
I'm at home in LA, and I'm just outside in my backyard. So.
Nice. It's beginning of the morning where you are.
Yep, I have coffee and water and a project.
Great. That's all you need.
Yeah.
I'm at the end of the day, or not really at the end, at the beginning of the evening. So I'm nice and calm and ready for a good talk with you. So I'm so happy you're here. And do you want to firstly tell me how you got where you are in like big steps?
Yeah, sure. Well, okay. So how I got here is I was born.
Oh, wait, how old are you?
I'm 32. My parents are pretty creative. So I grew up and they also they ran their own business. So I grew up in a restaurant, and so that meant I was around a lot of creative and like talented people growing up who did all different sorts of things. A lot of people work in restaurants just to pay the bills, and they have other things like acting or writing that they like to do. So it was around a lot of creative people growing up. And my parents also make things. My mom is a painter, and my dad does a lot of woodworking and is generally just like super crafty. Just comes from like a really industrious family. And so I saw my parents making things all the time. And then when I was a young kid, like 3.5 to 4, I had a childhood illness. I had ulcerative colitis, so I had to be in the hospital. And I would do like a lot of projects to distract myself because I don't remember being in pain, but I remember being really bored all the time because you're just sitting around. And so I would do a lot of projects to like distract myself. And then I went to a school that did like a lot of hands-on learning, kind of like a Waldorf school. And there was a teacher there who introduced me to embroidery and knitting and sewing. So I started to do those things when I was a little kid. And I was also doing art all the time from, a young age. So yeah, when I graduated high school, I went to art school in Chicago. I went to the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, and I studied fashion design and fibers. So
you didn't go through some puberty thing where you were like, no, I'm going to be a lawyer, because you were also creative.
I mean, for a while I wanted to be a doctor because I had spent so much time. Sorry, there's a plane going over. I don't know if you can hear it. There was a while when I wanted to be a doctor, but then I realized that the schedule is really demanding. I thought I wanted to be a surgeon because like I have, great fine motor skills, and I thought like, oh, that would be like a great application of my skills. But, I always just loved making things. And I thought that the responsibility of being a surgeon was kind of a lot. And also the schedule is kind of a lot. And I wanted something where people's lives aren't literally in my hands to be my career.
Right.
No, I never really had a period of like, my family was always really supportive of my creative pursuits. So it was just kind of normal to make things in my house growing up. So
that sounds awesome. So you went to art school and then majored in
and then
textiles, or how does that go?
well, fashion was my major, and then I took a lot of classes in this department called Fiber and Material Studies. So we call it Fibers for short. And in the fiber department, you can basically do anything. It's a very open-ended major. And then the fashion department was very like rigorous and on a track. So I was a fashion major, but I always loved to take the fibers classes because it allowed for like more freedom and experimentation and stuff. And I was just thinking the other day how much I miss the like ability to kind of just play with different mediums and fail at stuff and make bad work. And
you saying that,
like, I want to take on another area. Like, I would love to go back to making ceramics and stuff. That's something I did in school, but I just feel like I don't have the freedom right now to kind of fail at something. Like, I would want to hit the ground running, and I think I would get really frustrated. But that's what you do in school, is like you just try things a lot and you fail. And so I really miss that. But anyway,
I think I still do that. I still fail a lot. But then if you fail in lots of like small things, then there's always something that kind of sticks. But it needs a lot of attention and time, and sometimes you just you're not able to do that, or like focus.
I feel like I have the threshold to tolerate it for like professional stuff, like in what I'm doing, like to make money. I feel like, oh, I have like the patience to do it because it's my full-time job. But then when I go over to like my hobbies and things that I do more for like, soul nourishment and like pleasure, I kind of like don't want the frustration of failing.
Wow, that's super interesting.
Like, one example is like, so I love to cook, but it's not something that I do like for money.
Mm-hmm.
But in the US, banana bread was like the thing everyone was making at the beginning of quarantine, because it's like, homey and like delicious and like something we used to eat when we were kids. And I made 2 banana breads a couple weeks apart that were both totally raw in the center, like totally not even salvageable by toasting. Raw in the center banana breads. And finally this week I made banana bread that was cooked all the way through, and I just felt like so good. I like making the 2 failed banana breads, like just really crushed me.
But you did make the third one though.
Yeah, I did.
I see on your Instagram, I see these great baking things come by. I'm like, oh my God, this girl can do anything. But it's nice to have a little bit of a deeper peek into that.
Oh, yeah. No, there's definitely failed stuff that like just goes in the trash once in a while. But I hate that moment. It's like the most.
I love it though that you give yourself the time and the space to do that in your work. How is that different?
I don't know. I feel like when you're doing something to make money, you're kind of just forced to make it work and try everything that you can to make things work, and that involves failure sometimes. So like I try to try things when I'm doing new things. I try to like keep it small so that if it's a failure, it's not like a catastrophic failure.
It's interesting to think about, because I think I work the other way around. I let myself fail much more, and no, that's actually not true. I'll have to spend some time thinking about this. It's very interesting. So you have different businesses. You have like 2 or 3 different businesses
Um,
in.
uh, I have like one plus, I guess. I have Soft House, which is my company, and then I work for a yarn company called Nomad Yarn.
Hmm.
So it's not my company, but I do a lot of the heavy lifting for Nomad. So
And
sometimes it
then,
seems like it's my company, and I treat it like it's my company because I think
yeah,
that's going to make it successful.
absolutely. And but also you make your quilts.
I do my quilts. I don't think of that so much as like a business pursuit, although sometimes I make money from it. It's more of like a artistic thing, I guess. It kind of stems from like my dad was a woodworker, so growing up we had a lot of furniture that was like art that he made or collected or like his friends made or whatever. So I'm kind of like used to living with these functional objects that are art. And yeah, that's something I wanted to like bring into my own home. Like every time we would need something, I would just try to make it. So yeah, the quilting was like more of like, oh, a necessity thing. And then I just got really into it. And yeah, I had, fabric scraps lying around for making clothes. So it always was like the perfect segue into making a quilt.
Yeah, exactly. I actually own one of your quilts, and I love it. And I'm kind of like every time I'm torn between really, really using it and like, do I want to hang it on the wall? Do I want to use it? And then our cats will lie on it, and it'll be full of cat hair. And I'm like, oh no! Oh, it's fine. It's fine. It's meant to be used, and the
Yeah.
jeans is already used, so that's great. And I already washed it, so it's become part of my life, and I really love how the literal layers are there, that it's made of scraps, and then it came all the way from where you are, I think at the time still in New York City, I guess. Or
Yes, yeah. Which
and
is a part of my story we didn't get to yet, but we'll get there.
yeah. Oh yeah, I just went right into it. So no,
Okay.
let's get back to where you are in art school.
Oh yeah. So in art school I met my husband Alex, and when we graduated, well, I went home for 3 months with the promise that we would move to New York together. So I went home and I worked retail for 3 months before we moved to New York. And then I transferred my retail job out there, and I did that for a couple months before I got a job at Pearl Soho, the yarn store.
Hmm.
And I was working there for a couple months. I met a designer from Anthropology, the store where I worked retail for like a year. And she hired me to make some samples for a line she was designing for Anthropology. And I made the samples and I brought them to her studio, and she gave me a job like on the spot working as
Wow.
an assistant designer. And I was like 23 and totally new in the industry, and it was just a really cool moment. Felt like
Yeah.
such a New York moment. So I worked for her for about a year, and then I worked for Eugenia Kim, the hat company,
Hmm.
for like 3 years. Then I went back to working for Pearl Soho and did a lot of patterns for their blog, that I feel like no one knows are my patterns.
No,
But
that would be interesting to know which ones are yours, because they've been
oh
knitted
yeah,
so many times.
I know, right? Like the classic cuffed hat, I think has like 3,000
Oh
projects
my
on
God.
Ravelry or something. And
That's
that's my project. So
so when you were at Pearl Soho, you initially you were selling yarn, and later you were there to design.
yeah, well, I worked for them twice. It was over a stretch of like 5 years. I worked for them twice. So there was a big gap in between. But when I was first working there, I was just cutting fabric and, helping people with their yarn and stuff. And I made I was making quilts at that time and also knitting a lot. So one of the projects that I knitted just because actually made it to the blog. So I think that was like the beginning of them seeing that I could make patterns that people would really want to knit.
Yeah.
So then when I had been working in the fashion industry for a couple of years, I kind of like wanted something more with like a slower pace. So I went back to working for them, and I was just working on the blog at that point.
And how did you go from that to starting your own business?
I had been thinking about it the entire time I was working for them, and I kind of saw that as like a good segue between working for other people and working for myself, because that's a job that is remote. Like, you know, now everyone works remote, but back then it was like more unique. We would just meet once a week to talk about the calendar and stuff, and then the rest of the time was basically like, you know, you just work on your assignments. Yeah, so you know, I kind of got a taste of like, making my own schedule, and you know, I got a studio at that point because I needed more space to work outside of my home. So it was kind of like, it was kind of like a training wheels experience.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are like, oh my God, Pearl Soho, that's like the center of centers of the yarn shop world. And owning a yarn shop, I know that sometimes it's much more glamorous on the outside than it is on the inside.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it will totally learn you a lot, especially if you were also selling to people and you are also on the marketing side of things and you see the whole scope of like a business. What would you say is something you've learned from there that has helped you in owning your own business?
Probably like just the incredibly high standards that they have are really important, and also the consistency of the brand, I think, is something that I saw firsthand, like how, you know, everything has like kind of the consistent style and voice, and like even, you know, you see a picture and you know it's Pearl, even if it doesn't have, you know, a label or yarn or whatever in it.
Absolutely.
Just having a really solid vision that you just really stick to makes it, I think, much easier for people to come on board, because your values are kind of just out front and center.
Absolutely. And it's also kind of timeless, isn't it? Like things that were probably you designed like 15 years ago, they still look fresh, and I think it's really awesome. And it takes balls to like stick to your thing. And so from Pearl Soho, was it Poppy and Pima that your first business was?
Yeah, I started it as Poppy and Pima, nicknames for my grandparents.
So cute.
So I started it as that, and people started to take onto it really well. But when I moved to LA, I decided I wanted to have like a little bit of a rebrand and kind of like an identity shift.
And can you explain what you were making and selling with these businesses? Like Poppy and Pima first, and now it's called
Soft House.
Soft House.
Yeah, like spelled like Bauhaus.
Yeah, I love that.
So when I started the line, I guess to back up, I had worked with Peru for many years at that point, and I really liked how in Peru they have a huge focus on not only the ecosystem and maintaining that, but also in the social side and giving back to their community and keeping things local, which I really like. So yeah, the first couple of times I went to Peru, I just thought, you know, if I'm ever going to do my own line, I really want to make it in Peru, because I just love working here and I love the people and the product that they make, and it's just fantastic. So I knew I wanted to work with Peru, but a lot of the knits that I saw coming out of Peru, I noticed were kind of like beige and just not the customer that I really designed for. So I thought, you know, here's an opportunity it's like a need in the market for, you know, sustainable and ethical knits that are colorful and fun and, you know, have like a personality, you know.
It's cool that you mentioned that, because that is actually one of the biggest reasons that I wanted to talk to you, because lots of people think that if you have a brand that is like makes conscious and ethical choices and is usually beige or green or burlap or whatever, cardboard, and you are like completely almost the opposite of that in your aesthetic, and it's so colorful, it's so unique, it's so full of character, and it is for a lot of like a wide range of people. Can you tell me a little bit about your customers?
Yeah, well, I feel sad that I'm not interacting with my customer more these days. I really miss doing the in-person events, like the craft fairs and stuff. It's just like the best time to be able to meet your customer in person and hear what they love about the product and what they don't. But we get to connect by email and social media and stuff. Yeah, I think a lot of moms buy my stuff, and we're now offering kids stuff too. And we try to make things that are friendly for like different sizes in the same person. Like, you know, if your weight goes up and down because you're like pregnant or breastfeeding or whatever, like we offer products for those people. My weight fluctuates a lot, so I'm always like thinking about that. When I
Yeah,
design clothes,
it's
like can I
awesome.
gain 20 pounds and still wear the same exact item? Like, because I feel like that's
Yeah.
something that really adds like a longevity and sustainability to your wardrobe if it can like accommodate different sizes. So that's something we're really conscious of, and I think that's why we get a lot of moms buying our stuff.
It's so funny. I wouldn't think moms necessarily. If you look at the pictures, it looks really, not to say that moms are not young or anything, but it looks really fresh and young and and hip. Is hip still
Yeah,
a word? It was
definitely.
a word. No, it's awesome. I totally like, I'm wearing something that's very colorful right now, and our mutual friend Anna Maltz has taught me a lot about color, how you feel happy wearing colors and everything. So when I went on your website, what I noticed was you have a survey for your customers where you ask a lot about their information and what they like and what their preferences are. And I just love that. I love that you make that connection, that you don't make something that you want to make and then wait for somebody to buy it, but you actually have a conversation with the customer. Um, there's a lot of attention for body shapes, as you said before. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Hello, friends. I just want to say something to you quickly. So, if you're liking the podcast, if you're liking what I'm talking about, consider joining the mailing list. I have bi weekly updates on the podcast and or business insights and tips. The occasional exercise to get you ahead. If you want to actually talk to other business owners about the things that I talk about here on the podcast, why not become a Yavol community member for as little as €8.50 a month? That's like buying me coffee and a croissant. But don't do it for me though. Do it for yourself, because I promise that you will get something out of it, either the emails and or the community. So you can either go to the show notes or sign up through yavel.myflowdesk.com/pattern shift. I hope you'll join us.
Yeah, so when I moved to LA from New York, I was living in New York for 8 years, and then 2 years ago I moved back to LA where I'm from. One thing about being in New York is that there's a really solid fashion industry there that's really established, and I feel like that established industry means a really established mindset in terms of the product that is being offered. Uh, so I think that when I started the company, I was really thinking more about like the straight sizes. Like when I started my line, I was working with someone I went to college with, and she was saying, you know, size small is going to be your most popular size. So you're always going to want to order more of size small, because you're going to have the most demand for that size. So we do our first production run with Peru, and I order majority size smalls, and then when the product comes in, I take my personals, the styles that I'm taking home to wear. As of course, I'm not a size small, I'm a size large. So I take everything in size large, and I start wearing it and taking pictures for Instagram and stuff and posting them. And then I realize, wow, everyone is seeing me wearing the size large, and then they want to buy the size large because they look like me and they see me looking cute and they also want to look cute. So that was like a really interesting thing to realize, that we sold a lot of larges because that's the size that I wear. So then when I moved to California, I gained a lot of weight during the move. So I came out to LA, and the lifestyle out in LA is like very fit and active. And
Yeah, I thought that's actually true, because I never believe anything I see or hear. I always think it's just the movies or whatever. So, but that's totally what
no,
it's
it's
like.
real. It's like, yeah, like everyone has like their activity, their active like sport that they do. And we eat like a lot of like farmers market produce. And so
Yeah.
I had gotten engaged and started planning my wedding. So I thought, okay, I need to like go on a diet. And I did a diet program that is based in psychology. So you have to do a lot of readings about like the psychology behind like your food choices and your activity choices and all these different things. And so in doing that, there was a reading that I had to do about assigning moral value to foods. You might eat a little serving of ice cream and you might call that naughty, or like, if
Mhm.
you eat like some, pizza and french fries, you might say like, oh, I ate really bad today. And how how assigning moral value to food and food choices and to weight and body size is like really wrong, and also like a hindrance in trying to be healthier and lose weight.
Also
So
for your mental health.
yeah, exactly. So when I read that, it was like a light bulb went off, like, wow, it's not morally wrong to be fat. It's not morally like wrong to eat like ice cream, and like how wrong it is to like assign moral value to those things,
Mhm.
because it's not like a choice that harms someone, it's not like it's not something that's like morally wrong. So like, that was like a huge mental shift for me to realize like, oh, we have to really think about how what we're putting out into the world, like what message that sends about other people's bodies, like, and other people's lifestyles. So then I got to thinking like, wow, in not offering sizes that can accommodate different sizes of people, I'm really saying that it's wrong to be that size, right? So that was like a huge shift for me, and I just thought like, that's not something I want to say. I don't want to say it's wrong to be that size. I want to serve those people, and I want to, offer clothing options to people of different sizes. So I talked with my assistant about it, and she actually had the idea to do the survey because she wanted to get a really good handle on what is the size of our customer, and what, maybe we have this huge audience that we're not like surveying because
Yeah.
we don't make a size for them. So yeah, that was the motivation behind the survey, was to kind of like learn a little more about our customer and what they want and what they can't find.
I just wanted to say that you actually have been an inspiration for me on exactly that part of fashion, like the inclusive sizes and everything. And um, it's amazing to hear that from the other side. It's something that you have had to learn and find out. For me, from the other side, I'm like, oh, here's this lovely, pretty woman that looks so good in all her colorful clothes. It helps, and it has helped to see people like you on Instagram and showing themselves looking awesome. I think the power of sharing that is much bigger than we think. I just wanted to say thank you because you've been an inspiration, and keep doing that.
Oh, thank you. That's so sweet. I never, I think I kind of just underestimate the impact of things, but following influencers who practice body positivity and make that a huge part of their message has definitely just opened my eyes to the importance of like self-acceptance and how radical that is. So I want to be a part of that in any way I can.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be like your main voice or whatever. It can just be there like naturally, and that is like such a positive message. And I really love that about your whole brand and your aesthetic and the pictures of the people in your clothes on your website. It's all awesome. And I wish you so much success with that, and hopefully the shipping will be fast and good soon so I can get some new clothes.
Yeah, totally.
And this is where I come into another ethical question. I am plus size. I would love to buy only sustainable products, and I'm trying to do that. And it's really hard for me to find clothes that tick all the boxes. And then when I go online, there's a lot to find, but it's not in the Netherlands. And that's fine because we live in such a small country. I think Europe to me is local enough. But if I want to order in America or in Australia or whatever, this product is going on a plane and it needs to go in a van. And what are your thoughts about these kinds of things? Do you sell all over the world, or is it more in the US? Or and working with Peru is also, what is local?
We were selling a lot in Europe and Canada, and now with the pandemic, it's really put a little bit of a hindrance on shipping internationally, especially from the US. So now I think that it's definitely become like more local and just more within the US. I'm trying to keep things small and keep the level of risk that I assume with the product and inventory low because I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Right now we're working on a lot of styles that we're making locally from recycled fabric, but really what that is leftover fabric from other lines production. So we go and shop at a warehouse where we can buy mill ends, the leftovers from people's production or dead stock.
Which would otherwise be not used.
Yeah, which would otherwise be, maybe thrown away or something. So we're using that material to make small production runs of our new styles.
Sounds like you're like really reacting quite well to the situation right now. Is it like if something like this happens, it's not like you've seen this before, but how would you say you react to stressful situations in your business?
Well, I think on the surface it probably appears like I get stressed out really easily, and I only know that because one time my old boss ran into my stepmom at an industry event in New York, and she mentioned that I get stressed out really easily. But I actually know that I make my best work under stress. And so to me, it doesn't seem like a negative thing. I don't know. I'm just kind of like a neurotic person and I have anxiety. So I'm always like hyper vigilant and like I can't really rely on anyone else. I just have to rely on myself and do whatever I can to make it work. So I wouldn't say that I'm like thriving in this new circumstance, but I definitely had like my life set up before the pandemic in a way that I could just, do my work no matter what was happening on the outside.
Yeah.
And I'm very fortunate that I could do that in a time when, we have millions of people unemployed in this country, literally
Yeah,
like
exactly.
want to work but can't. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you work with a team? Do you like
Mm, my team's very small. I have myself and I have an assistant, and then my husband also helps us And then to make everything, we have contractors we work with. So I guess those are like players on the
Yeah.
team.
And you and your do you communicate through Zoom or whatever at this point, or are you close to each other and can you still meet?
Yeah, we can still meet. We work out of our house, so we're keeping it like very, limited in terms of exposure. And yeah, she's able to come here. We have a room for her to work in.
That's nice.
And yeah, so we're just both being kind of like she's part of our pod at
Oh,
this.
that's great. Not like, yeah, you can still do the things you were doing before and still keep your business going.
Yeah, it's a relief because I just see with my dad's business like how hard it is to have people not working who used to work for you before, and I'm really glad we can still work.
Yeah, yeah. Like keep the boat floating until we can sail again.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So do you want to share with us where we can find your awesome designs and your social media?
Yeah, so I have my business Instagram is at soft_house HAUS. So that's my business account, and then we also have I have my personal account. It's at Gina Rockenwagner.
I'll share it. I'll share it in the show notes. It's an awesome account if you love cats. She has such cute
Yeah.
cats. Her cats are
Yeah, I was
amazing.
thinking last night, I was like, I should probably add something to my bio about how my stories are like 80% cats.
Hey, Gina, thank you so, so much for
Let's
sharing all
do a
of this.
second chapter where we all only talk about like body positivity and plus
Can we
size
do that?
fashion. Yes, I would love to because I've been thinking about it a lot, and I have like a lot of
Oh, me
ideas.
too. I have a lot of ideas and opinions. I always have opinions, but ideas as well. Oh, let's
Yeah,
let's
my
do
favorite thing right now.
that. Oh, I would love to. We'll talk.
Okay,
We'll talk.
cool.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you so much for having me.